Good evening, everyone. My name is Elizabeth, the Education Coordinator for Marlene's Market and Deli. Tonight's special guest that we have with us is a local registered dietitian of Lighthouse Nutrition and Wellness, and we are just super grateful to always have her with us, Miss Cathy Hains. Thank you so much, Cathy.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Nice to be here again. Hopefully you will sound tell me if you can hear it or not.
You have got to meet the 105-year-old lady from Louisiana who ran 100 meters and set a world record. We went to meet Miss Julia Hawkins and expected she'd be real excited to talk about the race, but she told us it's just a drop in the bucket when it comes to the race of life.
I'm not sure if you can hear it, but you get the idea by looking at the picture if you can.
And she's off at 105 years old in a class all by herself and with a fresh picked flower in her hair. Julia Hawkins was running for the record books at the Louisiana Senior Olympic Games. She is running 100 meters, a little bit more than a football field, and has to stay in that lane despite not being able to see much more than about a foot in front of her because of her age. Miss Hawkins stays in race shape mostly by jogging a mile or two a day near her Baton Rouge home that she and her husband built together back in 1948. And that's where we first met her, the day before the race. Well, hello, Miss Julia.
Hello.
Nice to meet you. I'm David.
Well, David, we've been waiting a long time on you.
Well, have you ever wanted to be a world record holder?
Not particularly.
No. Are you impressed by it?
No, not particularly. I did many other wonderful things before this. This is just a drop in the bucket.
She grew up in the 1920s when a train ticket cost about a nickel. What was the state of the world when you were born?
Much calmer, fewer buttons to push, and but lots of books to read.
She became a teacher and fell in love with gardening. She shared that love for nature with a fellow student at LSU named Murray Free Hawkins Jr., or Buddy as they called him.
I met him the first day at LSU. I went home and wrote about him in my diary. He was so smart. so clever and so fun. He had a good sense of humor, and he was vivacious and wonderful. We were married by telephone.
By telephone. At that time, Murray was at Pearl Harbor, serving in World War II. Together, they raised 4 children. And after 70 years of marriage, Murray died at the age of 95. Did you want to live to be this old?
I couldn't imagine being this old. Without him, it's not the same. It's not quite as wonderful.
What are your dreams?
I don't have a dream. I just want to go to sleep and let it end. That's what my husband did. We were sleeping together, and he sang love songs to me that night.
Did you happen to get my message about the music playing?
That's a wonderful way to go.
No.
Yeah,
Well,
so there's music playing in the background, so it's really hard to hear the video.
Okay, that's a very good input.
Which takes us right back to that 100-meter run. On race day, among those cheering her on were 2 of her former...
Okay. If you can let everyone know, or can they already hear me? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, they can hear.
You have got to meet the 105-year-old lady from Louisiana who ran 100 meters and set a world record. We went to meet Miss Julia Hawkins and... You have got to meet the 105-year-old lady from Louisiana who ran 100 meters and set a world record. We went to meet Miss Julia Hawkins and expected she'd be real excited to talk about the race, but she told us it's just a drop in the bucket when it comes to the race of life.
On your marks. Set.
And she's off at 105 years old, in a class all by herself, and with a fresh picked flower in her hair. Julia Hawkins was running for the record books at the Louisiana Senior Olympic Games.
Come on, Julia, you got it, you got it. Come on.
She is running 100 meters, a little bit more than a football field, and has to stay in that lane, despite not being able to see much more than about a foot in front of her because of her age. Miss Hawkins stays in race shape mostly by jogging a mile or 2 a day near her Baton Rouge home that she and her husband built together back in 1948. And that's where we first met her, the day before the race. Well, hello, Miss Julia.
Hello?
Nice to meet you. I'm David.
Well, David, we've been waiting a long time on you.
Well, have you ever wanted to be a world record holder?
Not particularly.
No. Are you impressed by it?
No, not particularly. I had too many other wonderful things before this. This is just a drop in the bucket.
She grew up in the 1920s when a train ticket cost about a nickel. What was the state of the world when you were born?
Much calmer, fewer buttons to push, and, but lots of books to read.
She became a teacher and fell in love with gardening. She shared that love for nature with a fellow student at LSU named Murray Free Hawkins Jr., or Buddy as they called him.
I met him the first day at LSU. I went home and wrote about him in my diary. He was so smart, so clever, and so fun. He had a good sense of humor, and he was vivacious and wonderful. We were married by telephone.
By telephone? At that time, Murray was at Pearl Harbor, serving in World War II. Together, they raised 4 children, and after 70 years of marriage, Murray died at the age of 95. Did you want to live to be this old?
I couldn't imagine being this old. Without him, it's not the same. It's not quite as wonderful.
What are your dreams?
I don't have a dream. I just want to go to sleep and let it end. That's what my husband did. We were sleeping together, and he sang love songs to me that night. Wonderful songs. So that's a wonderful way to go.
Well, until that happens, we are going to cheer you on.
Thank you.
Which takes us right back to that 100-meter run. On race day, among those cheering her on were 2 of her former students, 90-year-old Rosemary and Evelyn, who's 89. She finished in just under 1 minute, 3 seconds, setting a world record as the oldest American and the first woman to run 100 meters in her age group.
I'm so happy.
Now, you know, every winner deserves a press conference, and this one set her own rules.
Okay, one question apiece.
You want to do it again?
Yeah. Right now?
No. How about in 106? Do it again?
Maybe so. Who knows? See how I feel when I get up in the morning.
Deal.
Oh, love everything about Miss Julia, David.
She started racing at 101.
Wow.
Because why not?
Because why not? Dave, you sure know how to pull on those heartstrings, man. Great job.
Y'all, I fell in love.
I did.
I did too, right
Walked
now.
in 10 minutes late.
I was
She
gonna
goes,
say.
We've been waiting a long time.
I love that.
Okay, so that was so cool, wasn't it? I know, I don't know too many 105-year-olds who can do that. But anyway, I know a lot of people much younger who may not even be able to do that. So it's really, really impressive. And you said there was one part where she acted kind of like she was down and said, you know, I don't know. She said something kind of downing. I can't remember what it was at the moment. But later on, at the end of the race, you know, she was saying, yeah, I might consider doing another one. And you can tell that she was quite happy with what she's doing. So, you know, she's a widow, but she still has a lot of support and a lot of encouragement and still pretty good health. It's amazing how intact mentally she is as well. That's another thing I made note. So I thought that was really, really cool. Okay, so we don't want to watch it again. Hold on a second. Here we go. Okay. Okay. So the class objectives today are, we're going to go over some, oh, by the way, about Julia Hawkins, we're going to find out a little bit about her lifestyle at the end of this presentation. So that will not be a mystery. So you'll get to know some of her secrets when we get to the end of this presentation. So hang in there for that. So what we're going to talk about today are some just general areas of nutrition. I wish I could cover everything, but within an hour, that's not going to be possible. So I'm going to cover some things that I think would be of important to know as much as I can. And of course, you can always feel free to just email me with any questions later on, and I'll have my contact information at the end of the presentation. So one of the areas, other than just here it says number 1 for improving health and quality of life, is preventing dementia and Alzheimer's with nutrition too. I'm really excited about that. I've seen what that can be like working in, you know, just seeing people and different people in my life and at long-term care facilities. I've seen that a lot, and it's not a fun thing to see. And if you've already, you know, if you yourself know someone who has this condition, relatives, things like that, you know, that's just not a fun situation to be around, and certainly kind of scary to consider that could happen to you yourself or someone you love. And so nutrition and lifestyle definitely can play a role to help that. And there's a lot of research going in about all kinds of therapies for that as well. So longevity, again, like I was mentioning, I just really have a passion for that. I don't know how long I'm going to live or my loved ones, but, you know, and but the thing is just that I think a lot of us would really like to have that if we know that we're going to be doing well at the end there, towards the end in our golden years. So adding nutrient density in some different ways, I'll show at the end, and exercise tips and some other important factors. Again, this presentation, or the first time I'm saying, is not meant to substitute actual healthcare. So just definitely take these ideas, and if you feel something fits, make sure you talk about it with your doctor and your dietitian. So here we go. So one of the biggest things that I hear about when it comes to nutrition for the older population is making sure that there's enough protein in the diet. That is very important because muscle loss does happen at a very slow rate year to year. And so it's just very important to keep up that protein. And it's roughly about half your body weight. The actual figure is for adults 0.8 to 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight. And again, that equals roughly about half to a little bit less than half. That is very individualized for each person. So for example, if someone has failing kidneys or very sensitive kidneys, that would probably be less. But again, that's up to your doctor and nutritionist to help you determine what that would be. This could be prevented by adding more protein to your diet, at least ensuring adequate protein. I tend to see from all the studies I've ever seen, for so many decades of following this, that in general, plant-based proteins are less stressful on the kidneys and the overall body. And as you'll see from the entire presentation, you'll see some more insight into that. So lean proteins, some think that's chicken and turkey and fish can have a lot of benefits. And also, again, there's so many things, as you can see in the picture here, that would mean plant-based proteins as well. Like you have your beans, nuts, seeds, legumes, and some grains as well. We've all heard, I think everyone knows, that calcium is very, very critical for healthy bones, and the vitamin D also helps the calcium to do what it needs to do in the body, so they kind of go together. So older adults definitely need to keep an eye on their calcium and vitamin D. Up here in the Northwest, we all know that it's very challenging to get that much in, because vitamin D is basically a pro-hormone in our skin that's activated from the sun. And so there's not a whole lot that's naturally found in food. So basically it's getting it from the sun. And there are a few other things here, like, as you can see, fatty fish, salmon, eggs, fortified foods and beverages. I hear a lot of clients say, well, I'll just take a calcium supplement, but there are a couple of issues with that. It's really recommended to come from foods as much as possible when it comes to calcium, I'm saying. Supplements can be challenging because sometimes they're sold in more than 500 milligrams a dose, and that is not good because the body can only absorb about 500 at a time anyway. So it's important to kind of, if you're going to take it from supplements, at least spread it out throughout the day in your intake. So when it comes to calcium, they kind of work together, but for the calcium now, it could be dark green leafy vegetables, and such as kale, broccoli, bok choy, and collard greens are one of the highest amounts that have the highest amounts of calcium from the typical vegetables at the store that you would get. Also, seeds of many kinds, such as sesame, chia, flax, and sunflower, they also have some calcium. Calcium is kind of scattered throughout in many different foods, but those are some of the ones that they're seen to be higher in. So it's very important to reach about roughly 1,200 milligrams a day, and that is very challenging. I see clients every single day in my practice, and most of them, I would say, this is going to be kind of shocking, but I would say 80 to 90%, it's quite a challenge, maybe 70 to 80%, to get the calcium. And there's one thing that even when I have clients who are really doing pretty well, they're even eating vegetables, they're doing all kinds of things, that's one thing that's lacking, is the calcium. A lot of them don't want to have dairy, and so when they don't have dairy, then there are challenges to get them from other places. But it can be done. It definitely can be done. Dairy is the number one traditionally known source for calcium that everyone kind of knows. But as you can see in the picture and what I've read, there are definitely other ways to get it, but you have to be vigilant about that and keep up on that as well. So I don't know if I've said enough about calcium. There really is so much more to say, but that's, again, we're going over some basics here on all of these. Another mineral that's super, super important that is very often overlooked is magnesium. And so magnesium plays a tremendous role in the body, several hundreds of functions in the body. As you can see in the graphic here, it seems to be affecting the entire body. It helps, the GI tract, helps relieve constipation, it can help with migraines. It helps as well, the calcium intake, strengthens your heart, helps with sleep, muscles, all these things, just tremendous amounts of things that it does. So that's very important to get enough magnesium in the day. And I have some amounts, I think, in here somewhere. Okay, so even a little bit of deficiency can cause all the things you see here. So it's important to really look at your diet and see if you're having magnesium in it. Cardiovascular disease can be implicated, type 2 diabetes, you have more of a risk of that, depression, chronic fatigue, all these different things that you see here. As well, with a lot of these nutrients, absorption can be a problem as well as one gets older. So that's another reason to just really monitor your diet and make sure you're getting enough of these. Some of the food sources are dark green vegetables again. Seeing a common theme here that's coming up. Swiss chard, kale, whole grains. This is an example of how much would be in whole grains. That's kind of interesting. I want to throw that in here. But a half cup of quinoa, for example, is considered a whole grain, 120 milligrams. Dried beans and legumes, Brazil nuts, cashews, peanuts, walnuts, and dark chocolate. Chocolate actually is really a very healthy thing for a lot of people. It's just usually what's added to it, the fat and sugar and other things that makes chocolate not as healthy. But dark chocolate in and of itself, and cacao, also very, very healthy. Low-fat dairy products also have magnesium. So there are different forms of magnesium, when they're combined different ways in the body. And so these are all the different some of the different forms and what they can do. So different health professionals will prescribe different types of magnesium depending on what you're needing. So that's another interesting side note. So B12 is an interesting topic because if you want more energy and a good mood and preserve your nerve health, that is very important. As you can see, I'm kind of like a fan of the plant-based diet. So that's one thing, is that those who are trying to reduce meat and go towards a plant-based diet have to kind of watch more carefully their B12 at the same time. So B12 is made from bacteria in the animals that have it. And so it's a myth that it's actually in the meat. It's actually in the bacteria in the animals. And so as you can see here, B12 is a very important factor to form red blood cells and DNA, and it's helpful for the brain and nerve cells. And so one of the symptoms of a low B12 is tiredness, fatigue, and there could be like a tingling and weird feelings in your peripheral, in your fingers, toes, things like that. And so the people who would be low on B12 could be people who are not eating enough of B12 foods or not having enough fortified foods. Another thing that could be happening is they could be on antacids or have some type of issue where they're not absorbing the B12 because it's absorbed in the stomach. So if there's any issue there with the stomach, those who have had bariatric surgery have to be on B12 for life usually because that's extremely important. A lot of the stomach has a lot of times been cut out. And so the ability to absorb B12 is greatly, challenged. So the symptoms, again, nerve issues, poor concentration, low energy. And so I've often heard it said that, yes, vegans and vegetarians may be at risk, but actually it can be just folks who are just getting older, lower acidity in the stomach, and just even meat eaters who are just not, they may be taking antacids or Tums or just getting older in general, or tend to be just as likely to be deficient in B12. And that's one of the things we look at when I have clients who are telling me they have low energy and some of their symptoms like that. So fortified cereals, there are a lot of foods fortified with B12. Lean meat, some fish, seafood are sources. Your body needs micrograms per day, very little. So it would take a while if you were to go plant-based tomorrow to have a deficiency, probably, unless you're already low. And so, because your body does store it in the liver. And so you do have a storehouse of it for a while. So, and you need very little, but you do need it. And so it's something you don't want to mess with, especially if you're avoiding all animal products and meat and had bariatric or any of these certain populations. Or just even, like I said, getting older, you can still have a lesser absorption of it. Okay, so I'm sure everyone here, we got a very health conscious bunch, so I'm sure everyone has heard of the gut biome by now. Probably don't have to tell you what that is. I don't have a slide about that, but the gut biome is all the bacteria, the trillions of bacteria cells in our guts, and they are finding over the last 10 or 20 years, the immense amount of impact it has on our health. And it's extremely growing area of nutritional research. And the gut health usually is very dependent on the amount of fiber in our diet. So fiber, when I was growing up in the 70s and everything, every time I heard about fiber, it's like, oh, that has to do with going to the bathroom and making sure you're not constipated. That could be farther from the truth from now. It's so much more than that now, so much more. So it's so important to eat high fiber foods because that will feed your gut bacteria and make, when your gut bacteria is healthy and in a good array and you have the right strains, then that will impact your health. That's the beginning of what they know now, and it's stemming from there in just a million directions of what they're finding out. When you have fiber, it not only helps the gut biome, but also helps to any excess cholesterol and things that you're eating, that can, the fiber literally can bind to that and take it out of your system. So that's another reason why it's so helpful for heart disease prevention. For type 2 diabetes, is important because it helps regulate the blood sugar. Anytime you eat a plain white carb or anything without anything else with it, that can spike the blood sugar very much. But when you have a high fiber carb, such as the one in the picture here, as an example, and also the other examples you see down below there, then that is going to cause, think of it as a time release carb. So the sugar is going to come out of it very slowly, because everything from having to chew it longer to have more enzymes to break it down, it's like, think of it as like chewing gum for the insides of you. So it just takes a lot longer for the sugar to get out into your bloodstream, and that is just good for everybody. And it's kind of nice to know that that's kind of how nature intended it. So it's like nature knew what it was doing. So, it didn't give us a white dinner roll. It gave us, complex carbs, like in the form of the whole grains. The one really interesting study that just came out was people who ate the most fiber were less likely to die of any cause during a recent meta-analysis. Meta-analysis, when they pool many different studies together in the Journal of Epidemiology of nearly 1 million people that were studied and followed. And so I can't emphasize enough how much that fiber-rich foods are important. And so that could also include, not pictured here, would be like oats. I mentioned quinoa. Let's see what else. Barley. I mean, just so many different grains that are out there. There's even ones that some people may not have heard of as much, like millet and teff and kamut and things like that. And whole wheat, obviously, that we all know that whole wheat. So fiber can also help prevent diverticular diseases, colon diseases, feeding the gut biome. Okay, and the fiber grams recommended per day are starting at, for women, 25 grams a day, and men 30 grams a day. And this is starting. Now, I have to say that if you are not eating that much fiber, I would not start and just go tomorrow and, hit 25 grams a day tomorrow. You definitely, if you have not been eating a lot of fiber, definitely want to increase slowly. And also make sure there's adequate hydration with that, because it could kind of backfire on you. Your gut will not be very used to that or very happy that you did that to it. So make sure that you do that slowly and with a lot of hydration. So back to these examples, Dave's Killer Bread is all the rage. That's what I always hear about. But there's also Ezekiel bread. That's a sprouted one that's in the, I'm sure that Marlene's has that one. I've seen that there. And also other places like Fred Meyer and places like that. It's a sprouted one. It's been around for a long time in the freezer because they don't use hardly any additives or preservatives. So they have to keep it in the freezer, which is nice. Silver Hills is another one. The only white bread that I can think of at the moment that could be still helpful is sourdough, because it's a fermented product. And so if it's real true sourdough, which is a whole nother topic, then that can also be beneficial for the gut biome and for overall health. Beans, peas, fruits, most vegetables, lots of fiber. Okay, so potassium is a mineral electrolyte that is needed by all tissues of the body and helps muscles contract. Enough potassium can help reduce the risk of hypertension, which becomes more prevalent as seniors age. So this is very, very important. High blood pressure tends to creep up as we get older. And so what's really cool about this is that, not about what I just said, but about potassium, is that it counteracts the effects of sodium. So in our American diet, sodium is just really overdone. Everywhere you go, even from the foods you get at the store to just about every restaurant out there, there's just too much sodium out there. So to put things in perspective, okay, I know I'm jumping onto sodium, so bear with me. I'll get back to potassium, but a sideline on sodium is that you only need around 500 to 1,000, somewhere in there, milligrams just to function of the body. But yet the typical low sodium diet is around 1,500 milligrams. The average American diet, if you're not watching, if you're not monitoring, if you don't care, if you just go get your frozen TV dinner and then you went out to eat the next day and you're eating fast food sometimes, whatever, it's around 5,000, can be upwards of 5,000 milligrams a day of sodium. There are numerous problems. I don't want to get off track here, and I don't even have a page about sodium, but the sideline note is that sodium can cause all kinds of issues other than increasing your blood pressure and being a mechanism involved in that. It can also increase your appetite, and it can, and it also can increase you to eat more and drink more, as we all know. But back on track for potassium, we actually need far more potassium than sodium per day, and it counteracts the negative effects of sodium. And potassium is found in tremendous amounts of fruits and vegetables. So what's so cool about this is that you think about how you always hear about how you need more fruits and vegetables, but it helps to know why. And one of the many, many reasons is because they have a lot of potassium in them to help counteract the effects of the sodium, and for many other, definitely some benefits of the body, as you see here. These are just general numbers, but women need roughly about that much, men about that much per day of that. And and it adds up quickly, but you have to kind of watch it. It really need a good array of fruits and vegetables and healthy foods throughout the day. I want to say a banana has around 400. I don't know if anyone can look it up for me real quick, but I want to recall it's about that much. And that's just one banana. And so look how much we need to add up to. So we need to eat our healthy foods. Here's some more, some right here. Bananas right there. Beans, lentils, spinach, broccoli, beet greens, dried fruit, potatoes have a lot, squashes, cantaloupe, oranges. So definitely need our potassium. Dairy products also have potassium. Don't want to forget that. So moving on. So we have already talked about potassium, which is good to reduce the effects of the high blood pressure. And we've talked about fiber for the gut biome, which is good for overall health. And yes, my assistant tells me 422 milligrams for a banana. So yes, very close. Thank you. So for great brain health, memory, skin, joints, heart health, who doesn't want all that, huh? That's really good. Very important are the omega-3 fatty acids. So this is an area I'd love to talk about. And yes, the other ones here, polyunsaturated and monounsaturated. Saturated fats, which is kind of the opposite of those, are basically ones that are solid at room temperature. So that would be like butter and coconut fat and things like that. And so think about how hard they get. And sometimes I like to think of, it's not exactly how it works, but think of it how, you wouldn't want that in your veins, right? These hard fats. So we don't want hard fats in our body for the most part. So omega-3s are one of the ones that are really good. And those are 3 general types: alpha-linolenic, the docosahexaenoic, and the eicosapentaenoic acids. All 3 of those can be very helpful. And the ALA ones are the plant-based ones, and walnuts, flax, and chia. And the DHA and the EPA ones are usually in salmon and other seafood. And usually the sea creatures get them from algae. So if there are any vegans listening to this, there are omega-3 supplements that are algae-based. So you do not have to feel that you have to have the seafood. Although for everybody else, the seafood is very helpful and very tasty. And so that can be a benefit as well. So these are also known as anti-inflammatory fats. And so that is something that's really good, because as we get older and things are running down a little bit more and things are getting slower, we certainly don't want any extra inflammation. Inflammation can cause pain and disease, especially chronic inflammation. So omega-3s are very good for that, for reducing those situations. Okay, moving on to healthy eyes. Who doesn't want that? We certainly do not want age-related macular degeneration. So we have to focus on foods that can help that. And along with the omega-3s, by the way, which overlaps, that can also be helpful, are the foods that you see here. The ones that have these carotenoids like lutein and zeaxanthin, several of them have these different carotenoids that can help with eye health. And also, sideline note, stronger immune system, healthy skin as well, sideline benefit. Okay, so they found that a Mediterranean diet can really help those with AMD as well. Large scale study, I like those. Okay, so it's always best to get your nutrients from food. However, they did show a study here that says that after 3 years, they found that there was a 60% slowing of cognitive aging due to those who were taking their daily multivitamins. So that was a really nice study to have. Again, having just a really good diet full of fruits and vegetables, making sure you have a calcium source, whole grains, lean proteins can definitely put you in an advantage and have a less need to take these. Okay, so we were talking about reducing the risk of Alzheimer's and dementia. That is something that I'm really passionate about, because it's just a very scary thing to see. And there are many different things that play a role, from exercise to sleep to, all kinds of things like, stress levels, things like that. They all can affect the mind, but one thing can definitely affect is nutrition. So they have the Mind Diet Project is out, and basically the name is a combination of the Mediterranean diet and the dietary approaches to stop hypertension. So it's kind of a combination of those two. So, and by the way, speaking of which, a sideline note, a Mediterranean diet was found to be the best rated diet of all the diets that you see out there. They're always making news headlines. The humble, quiet Mediterranean diet in the background there, I think it was like 4th or 5th year in a row of the best rated diet by a panel of nutritionists and scientists. I think in the U.S. News and World Report was a nutrition panel that was put together to determine the best diet. Mediterranean diet came out several years in a row now. as the best diet for anyone who's trying to just be healthy or lose weight, whatever it is. So in that diet, the MIND diet, what did they find that helped you prevent cognitive decline? It was reduced meat or meat-free diet, a plant-based diet, or just at least reducing red meat to about maybe 3 times a week or so, just not focusing on it as we do typically in the standard American diet, which, by the way, hate to break it to you, but pork is also a red meat. So when they said that pork was the other white meat, they lied, and that was an advertising thing. So it's definitely pork as well. Vegetables every day, dark green leafy vegetables, about 6 times a week. One thing I'm finding a lot, again, about from a lot of my clients is that I mentioned calcium, but another challenge that a lot of clients have is not, I'll say, well, oh yeah, I eat a lot of lettuce, I eat a lot of spinach. Okay, well, that's great. That's really good. But there's so many other dark green leafy vegetables out there, and it's good to get a good variety because, every vegetable, as well as every color of vegetable and fruit, have different benefits, and just different vegetables as well, different fruits. They all have different benefits. They will have different nutrition profiles, basically. So dark green leafy vegetables could be so much more than lettuce and spinach. I mentioned earlier, collard greens, Brussels sprouts, beet greens, just about anything that's very dark green leafy. Oops. Okay. Beans is another food that was very high on the MIND diet. And so they found that the more beans the seniors had, the less the cognitive decline. And due to the protein, B vitamins, and fiber that it had. And it's a lean protein. Beans, as you already may know, have 0 fat in them unless you add some fat to them. And you're probably wondering real quick, what is this? I threw this in here real quick, and I meant to kind of put it on another slide, but it works here too, about antioxidants. Okay, so a lot of vegetables and fruit have what we've heard so much about called antioxidants. And I want to take a minute to explain what this is a bowl of apples that have been submerged in lemon juice or have lemon juice added to them. So if anyone does not know what antioxidants do, this is an explanation of that. So when you take an apple and you cut it and you lay it around, sitting around, it's going to turn really brown and icky looking, right? I saw a picture on Blonde wanted to add, but it just looks so sad and ugly. I did not add it. So this one looked better to show you we all know what an apple looks like when it's just cut and left there to oxidize. So basically it's oxidizing. Okay, so think of the apple oxidizing. But a lot of us people who've made fruit salads and things like that, that one little hack you can do is just sprinkle it with lemon juice and it will look prettier on the table at your potluck or wherever longer. The lemon juice is the antioxidant, is preventing the apple from oxidizing. So would you like to oxidize your body? And not oxidize it. No, we don't want that. I'm sorry. It's getting late in the day. Antioxidize. You want that for your body to be healthier and long-lived as long as possible, right? And to look that way. Well, that's where the fruits and vegetables come in. The fresh fruits and vegetables, they have antioxidant capacity. And so they will help us from oxidizing free radicals, all that stuff. And free radicals are the atom breakdown in the body that comes with aging, especially. So the MIND diet continues. Berries. Berries are very good. They have a lot of nutrition, vitamin C, and a lot of antioxidant capacity without a lot of sugar. That's a really nice thing about them, is they're not very high in sugar, in the sugars that other fruits might have, which they're all good, but they just have less amounts. Nuts, they were eating a lot of nuts. Here's another thing I hear about clients and other people. They are not eating their nuts anymore because they're concerned about the calories. I'd like to say something about that. When right now, with a lot of the diets out there, a lot of people are getting away from beans, potatoes, complex carbs. A lot of my clients haven't seen them in a long time because of these diets that they're on, like keto or Atkins or whatever, saying, no, I'm not supposed to have that. But unfortunately, what it is that the truth of the matter is you have to not just think about calories and try to avoid a certain macronutrient. Basically, what it is that you have to think of, okay, it might have a lot of calories, but what else does it have? Nuts have a tremendous amount of nutrition in them. So much so that when you look at them, you look at the nutrition facts, it's like you're looking at a vitamin label. It's just, tons of nutrition in it. Nutrition, fiber, protein, fiber, selenium, iron, magnesium, what we were talking about earlier, magnesium, lots of nutrition. Yeah, it has quite a lot of calories. One huge handful or cup is probably 500 calories. But you know, eating these nuts as opposed to much other things like bags of potato chips or, you know, frozen dinners or whatever it is, you know, it's 500 calories we do have to eat. And so the amount of nutrition is incredible in that. So these are beans here. But okay, fish, eating fish 1 to 3 times a week was also beneficial on the mind diet. And some wine, that is very controversial, but some certain types of high polyphenol wine, very dark red, could be beneficial to some and increase the brain blood flow and delay the onset of dementia, they found. So that is another thing to further look at and investigate. So the Blue Zones is a whole research project and set of books and a program by the researcher Dan Buettner. And someone needs to tell him that I'm talking about him because I've been trying to get a hold of him for a while now, and I think he's too busy or something. But it's a fascinating thing that he's doing about going to the areas of the world where the people are living the longest and to collect information about what it is that they do, what are their secrets. And so these places are here. They are Loma Linda, California, Costa Rica, Sardinia, Italy, Icaris, Greece, and Okinawa, Japan. So there are a few similarities in what they're doing. And so he wanted to find out what those were. These are people who are living to be 100 or more and know they're not just forgetting their names in nursing homes or not able to get out or anything like that. These are people who are actually getting around. They are remembering who they are. They know who their family is, and they are doing fairly well. They're not racked with disease, and a lot of them. And so we wanted to find out more about it. So these are what the similarities were. They all, most of them, actually all of them, had a very plant-heavy diet. To break that down further, this one is the only one that was totally plant-based in our country at that. As soon as you go out of Loma Linda, which is Loma Linda is a Seventh-day Adventist community. And so because of their faith, they do not eat any meat. And so they also do other things like they don't smoke, they avoid caffeine and whatnot. However, there have been many studies on this community, and they have factored in that to make sure that the plant-based diet was really, really being proven very beneficial, and it was. So as soon as you get out of Loma Linda, you all of a sudden you have all the strokes and heart attacks. As soon as you go back in the city, apparently they're very hardly found. So that is very interesting about that city. All these other ones do have meat in their diet. However, it is not a centerpiece like it is in the rest of our country, in our culture. It's more just like, here's more beans and rice. Here's a lot more vegetables and fruit and pastas and other things. Greece, Mediterranean type cuisine, and here maybe fish, seaweed, and different things that they eat over there that are not so heavy on the kind of meat that we eat over here. So yes. The other things that they had were they eat a lot of beans, they get out a lot, there's a less of a stressful culture, the kind of rat race that we have over here in our culture, just less of that. As you hear, no time urgency in Japan, healthy social circle. So a lot of putting family first and friends first. And any of you guys who have been to Italy or the Mediterranean know that there's a lot of putting the car aside, just walking everywhere and going out for that evening walk after dinner and just checking in on people down the street and things like that. So I know I speak like I'm an expert on that. I have never been there, and it's on the bucket list. So this is what I've heard, and it sounds awesome, and I can't wait to visit myself. Beans here, again, the high polyphenol wine, whole grains, nuts, faith. Yep, lots of things. Sunshine. A lot of these were closer, not too far from the equator, as you can tell, so that's another sign. So vitamin D, remember I was talking about earlier, that's also very important to keep up. I wanted to go back to the vitamin D real quick. I didn't talk enough about that I would have wanted to. It's very important to keep in mind that vitamin D is kind of, I usually end up recommending that to a lot of my clients, and I recommend that for you also, especially in the winter months here. If you're able to get out in the summer sun and the late spring, summer, and early fall, you can get some vitamin D in the middle of the day here. But as soon as it's around October to all the way to May, roughly, you're not getting very much at all. And it's time and time again, I have clients tested and they're low all the time. So that is very important to keep in mind, because vitamin D is not only good for bone health, but also the immune system. So that was discovered a couple of decades back. It was a shocking discovery back then that vitamin D is very, very important for that. So they're finding that a lot of people who have come down with COVID, for example, very badly, severe cases, or cancer, just a multitude of other conditions, they tend to be low in vitamin D. And so there seems to be a major connection there. So it's very important to get tested and to keep that up, your vitamin D levels. So this is an example of some Mediterranean foods, just a pretty picture of that. And so, okay, so a few extra things here that I'd like to add is that spices can have a lot of benefit. They are definitely good, of course, for flavoring food, but as you know, there are different medicinal properties that have been known for quite a long time about so many of them. And also a lot of them have the antioxidant capacity that I was talking about. There are charts and resources that just show, huge charts that show all the different medicinal properties. And I wish I could include that here, but they're not too hard to find. Cinnamon can be good for blood sugar control, turmeric for inflammation, garlic has just downright medicinal properties, antibacterial, antiviral, anti-inflammatory, and it just goes on and on. There's just so many. Another side note is that herbs, for people who don't eat a ton of vegetables or just wanting more variety, I should say, there's so many ways to just even use herbs as a vegetable. So for example, if you've ever, just for example, tried tabbouleh, there's a lot of parsley, like a ton of parsley in that dish. Or some dishes just have lots of herbs in it. Some certain Italian dishes have lots of basil. We're not talking a few sprigs, but we're talking a lot of basil. So there are different herbs that can be used as a vegetable too, and they all have great qualities. All of them. It's very good to remember that. Another thing is that seeds can be very beneficial too. So that's another area that can be overlooked. Chia seeds have come back in popularity now, not just as chia pets anymore, as we once knew them, but now as all kinds of things. For example, this chia pudding that you see here, actually this is one I made myself, and it was just mixed in with a few melted chocolate chips, and I think it was either soy or an oat milk. I don't recall at the moment, but just put in there, and you can blend it where it's really smooth, or if you don't, it'll be kind of chunky, similar to kind of like tapioca. It's kind of hard to explain, but it's the seeds swell up. Very easy to make. This chia seeds right here, just what you see here, is roughly 180 milligrams of calcium, not including the milk that's in there too. So very good calcium source, a chia pudding. One of my sideline hobby interests are taking healthy foods, not healthy foods, the opposite, taking foods that are comfort foods or treats and finding the healthy version of those things. So, you could go down and get a chocolate pudding, like one of the ones at the store, or you could just make this, which is so much more healthier than anything store-bought. Although they are now making some chia treats at the store. So I have to keep in mind that they're also listening to consumer demand and improving on that as well. Sesame seeds are also very healthy, also have a little bit of calcium there, as you can see. Flax, we mentioned earlier, as a good ALA source of omega-3s, can be used as an egg replacer and as a thickener in gravies and all kinds of other applications. The very popular application is in oatmeal, to add it into oatmeal and things like that. So some other things that can be very healthy are seaweed. I think seaweed is extremely healthy. Unfortunately, we don't just go into the grocery store and wear the broccoli and the cabbages and find seaweed. So it's not very popular in that way, but it's probably has a better nutrition profile than even kale. It's just really healthy, extremely. And all the nutrients that you see here. And you can also get it as a seaweed salt, or a kelp powder, and different seaweeds that you can just literally shake out of the container and just add more easily. Nutritional yeast is really interesting. It usually is fortified, and it has a lot of good B vitamins and nutritional benefit. If you're not used to it, I would start out slowly. It's really good on popcorn, by the way. So Saccharomyces cerevisiae is a technical name there, and just very healthy. It's also very popular in like vegan cheese sauces and things like that. So another reason I'm bringing up these types of things, the seaweed and the yeast and the seeds and things like that, is because a lot of times as we get older, the calories needs might decline a little bit. And so, and also, especially if you're trying to lose weight. And so it's very important that within the amount of food you're eating, the food is very nutritional as you get older, especially since absorption may decrease too in some areas. So it's just really important that nutrition is really, really good overall as you get older. So, and a few other good resources for you. I'll explain these. If you're very health conscious and really want to ramp up your nutrition, a few tools that I would like to share are Chronometer, and it's similar to MyFitnessPal, which is an online food journaling program. And MyFitnessPal is really good. I'm a huge fan. However, Chronometer is one that really shows a lot of good nutritional detail about what you're eating. So it can really break down if you're getting all the nutrients you need as you keep your food journal. So I really like that one. I also have some resources with my own practice that I'd love to talk to you about if you'd like to sign up with me and see me as your dietitian. I have a lot of good resources also that are similar to Chronometer. Like, for example, Chronometer doesn't really make a meal plan to my knowledge, but I have one called Eat Love that does. And so it also breaks down your nutrient analysis for you and creates meal plans as well based on your needs specifically. So that's another one of the many resources I have. Fooducate is also one where you could just look up foods that you already have. You just go online, you sign up, and I believe it's pretty much a free program. Every time I've used it, I have not had to pay for it. But you just basically type in foods and it'll give you a grade of that food. So that's really, really nice. When it comes to supplements, this one does cost, but it's not that much. It's called Consumer Labs, and I think they're around 30 a year or 35 a year or what have you, but very reasonable. And you can look up all kinds of supplements that you might take and see how they score. They do a lot of audits, and they just basically buy and put in their labs. They just dissect and see if they really have what they're supposed to have, the right amounts in the products that they are testing. So those are a few resources there to share with you. Okay, so as we get older, a lot of times we're just having to take some kind of medication. Unfortunately, it happens. It could be, I see a lot of people on antidepressants, cholesterol medications. Although a sideline note, I have to brag that I have helped a lot of people reduce their cholesterol. I had a guy just literally the other day drop 100 points. So I'm very proud of that. 100 points, and he should be very proud of himself as well, the client. And so I do things like that with nutrition, and that's a whole nother talk and discussion of how to reduce your cholesterol. But anyway, back to this is that there are all kinds of medications people end up being on, and there are definitely, you may be getting what you want, like lowering your cholesterol or not having as much acid in your stomach, but there are definitely going to be side effects to that and nutritional side effects as well. So this is from Spectrashell. This is a really cool chart, and this is only showing one page. It's really several pages long. I just wanted to show this as an example of what can happen. But okay, so remember when I said the antacids can bring down the acids? Okay, B12 right there. So nutrient deficiency can cause that, and also deficiencies of all these other things when you take antacids. These are all the potential health problems that can come because you don't have enough of these nutrients. Antibiotics, definitely disruptive. And so these are some things that can also be declined. Cholesterol can reduce coenzyme Q10, and antidepressants can also decrease those. CoQ10 is something that can be depleted as we get older, so it can be a very benign supplement to take. Again, just ask your health professional, but it can help with energy as well. It's a chemical found in all cells of the body, and yes, it can be beneficial to take a supplement. Okay, so I'd like to talk now about, I feel so bad we're leaving the nutrition, but I need to talk some about exercise and fitness because that is also super important. I have seen in my days, 12 years of being a dietitian, I've seen some instances where, the client was not eating very well at all, or not that great, but they were exercising quite a lot, and they were still doing okay not to have a lot of conditions because I don't want to say they made up for it, but in a way kind of did, with a lot of good exercise and fitness. I'm not going to recommend that, though. I'm going to still say you definitely have to keep up your nutrition, but it definitely helps. I don't want to say 50-50, but it's just very important. Exercise and fitness is just up there, almost as important as nutrition. It is extremely important in many ways. For one, it helps the gut biome. Remember what I said, the gut biome's happy, you're happy. So that's definitely one of the ways. And it's very important that you do what you want to do. You start being fit the way with activities that you enjoy. Okay. And when you do that, you can gain health, independence, longevity, all those types of things. And so all the things that we want. Think of Miss Hawkins, the one that was running at the beginning of this presentation. So she loves running, and I think she was biking or something before that. She wasn't even a runner all her life, I don't think. Yeah. So I'm going to get back to that, I think, in a second here. Okay, so I think this is slightly out of order. My apologies. So basically, should you lose extra body weight as you get older? That is definitely a mixed bag on that. It's very important to weigh the pros and cons of that. So a little bit extra weight is kind of controversial, but a little bit extra weight can help in some areas, but at the same time, extra weight is definitely can be unhelpful and definitely increases your risk for many conditions. And as it says here, make your gait unstable, increase the risk of many different conditions all across the board. So I definitely think that somewhere in the middle, and just each person is going to have to figure that out on their own, but generally trying to stay in a healthy weight range, I would definitely promote that. Okay, so we talked a lot about nutrition, and it seems like there was just a lot to go over, and that was just a little bit of it. For example, we didn't even touch on vitamin C. Vitamin C is very important. If you're getting a lot of good fruits and vegetables, you should be kind of covered, but that is also so important for aging concerns. And so one thing you can keep in mind that can make things easier for you, it's going to make it so much easier, is to remember the basic My Plate. The USDA came up with the My Plate, I don't know, I'll say 20 or more years ago. And it's a very plain blue graphic. I don't have it included here. And it has a little cup of milk here, and it's just very plain. It's just like it says fruit, vegetables, carbs, and protein. It's just 4 words on it. It's very simple. And I found a pretty one here for you. But basically just keeping to that My Plate with half a plate of fruits and vegetables and 1/4 lean protein, 1/4 complex carbs. And I know that this one looks like it's a refined carb here, but as much as possible, trying to make that a whole grain product is a very good idea. And it's a very simple graphic. And so some people may say, well, why do we have to focus on something so simple? I mean, I'm sure it's much more complicated than that. Well, I'll explain that in a minute. Okay, so we have those. Also remember calcium sources, variety, and hydration. Okay, it's very important. I see a lot of people eating the same things every day, and that's not always a good thing because we want to get a good variety in. Okay, so the reason why a simple plate like this should be followed, and it can be hard to remember to do, is because in our culture that we live in, most of the times when we are served our meals, it is definitely not like this. Let's say you're going out and you want to get a sandwich. Okay, the sandwich, okay, 1 slice of bread would be this quarter already. Okay, so 2 slices is already going over this. Okay, so most of the times you don't have your meals as half vegetables, for example. A lot of times it may be missing a calcium source. So it's very important to try to remember to do this My Plate because it really does help you create a healthy plate for life. And it's just an easy template to follow. So sometimes with my clients, I have them think, okay, well, what would be something you could eat frequently that would fit that? Because like I said, our culture doesn't really, like for example, anytime you eat out, I mean, if it's not a sandwich, okay, let's say it's a Italian restaurant. As you know, the spaghetti, would it be in 1/4 of the plate? No, it would be in the entire plate, okay, with a lot of protein and fat probably, and probably not very many vegetables. So there's just so many times and incidences in our diet, in our culture here, where that's just not the case. The carbs dominate. And so what do we have? Now we have a backlash. Now we have keto. Now we have Atkins, because it's like baby out with the bathwater. So now let's just not have any carbs, shall we? Well, that's not really the way to go, because complex carbs are very, very healthy. They found there was a major study that was done a few years back, a huge study, to show that the people with the longest longevity around the planet had a roughly somewhere between 40 to 60% half carbs in their diet. And a lot of them complex carbs too. So here's a challenge. We don't have to throw the carbs out. What we have to do though is bring in a quarter of the plate as a complex carb. So a complex carb would be like whole wheat, oatmeal, quinoa. If you truly are gluten or wheat sensitive, then there are so many other complex carbs that you can still have. So just we have to just search through that and figure out what that is. In my practice with Eat Love Again, which has to be done through a dietitian, a health practitioner, we can literally figure out what you can and can't eat, and then just literally make a meal plan based on that. And it provides a grocery list and all those things too. So there's just so many resources out there today and so many ways that we can help. But again, this is just a very simple, diagram. Just remember that however you eat your meals, just try to remember ample fruits and vegetables, 5 to 9 servings, easier said than done, but you can do it. Okay, and another thing that can be motivating and discouraging, but motivating at the same time, it's kind of weird, but basically a study found that only about 10% of folks are eating those 5 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables. And it really isn't that hard. If you think that 1 serving of vegetables is really, if it's cooked, only half a cup, that's only 4 ounces. It's very small. Fruit's pretty much the same way. And so salads, about a whole cup, but it's just, they're not that big. The servings are not that big. So it wouldn't be hard at all to get to 5 to 9, just a little planning. So that is that, just a nice little diagram. If you felt that it's just one easy way where a lot of the things I talked about can be done on a daily basis without too much analysis or, stress, basically. Okay, so I apologize that I don't know how this happened, but my slides got a little out of order. So we're back to exercise. I apologize. But okay, some basics of exercise. If you are not already very athletic, as it is right now, it's very important to start with stability exercises. And then you move forward to flexibility. And later on, if you want to, strength and power. Those are other, more advanced types of exercises beyond just stability. So stability exercises are very good, and you can get a lot of health benefits just from that alone right away. And so these include things like stretching and squats and overhead squats, and planks are very good for the core. So that basically gets a lot of different muscles all at once. Marching in place, walking. And I have a lot of clients also, bless their heart, I love my clients, so I'm not trying to pick on them, but a lot of times they say, well, just don't have time to go to the gym, or just don't have time to go around the block or do the exercise that I have to do, just don't have time. But it's not included here in this presentation, but just take note that even a couple of minutes of some good intense exercise is better than nothing. So just neat activities, it could be just ramping up the chores or ramping up the activities. Neat means non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which just means just unorganized exercise, basically. So it's just doing more, like raking more leaves, or, not having the maid come by, just do it yourself, for example. I see as people get older, they tend to, get really good and savvy about, putting out those activities to other people. And so getting the grandkids to do it, or hiring a maid and things like that, or gardener. And so just, do those things yourself, walk the trash can out to the curb, and, don't have the service come to your house, for example, all the way to your house. Just do little things and try to get back into more activity slowly and carefully. And then doing things that you like. It could be dancing, or maybe a little exercise video, or playing with the grandkids, things like that, things that you enjoy doing, or with the dog. So some other good cardio exercises here, treadmill with handrails, cycling, walking, those are pretty safe. On uneven ground can be very, very good for those as you start getting older, just anyone really, because it trains you to be balanced so you won't fall. And I've seen so many times where folks, they're not keeping up the calcium, they're not keeping up their exercise, no vitamin D, they fall, they break something, and bless their hearts, now they have to be in rehab for months, like 6 months sometimes, or who knows how long, and then they could pick up other things while they're there, and that's not good. So it's just very important to prevent that. And that can be done by just watching your diet, eating the way you're supposed to, and getting that exercise in. If you can do some good resistance work with just some heavy objects around the house, maybe some barbells, things like that, just start real easy and slow. When you're using your bones like that, when you're using your muscles, it basically encourages your body to bring that calcium back into your bones, and it strengthens your bones. Because as they say, if you don't use it, you lose it. If you don't use it, your body will say, well, I don't think we need to be strong then. But if you're using it, your body says, whoa, they're lifting stuff. Okay, we better make these bones really strong here. And so the more you're doing things like that, the more your body will say, hey, we need to be around, we need to get stronger. So eating enough protein, resistance training, that can help to fight muscle loss. Here is just a little chart of some different exercises guidelines straight out of NASM. I just recently studied for that, for the National Academy of Sports Medicine, NASM. And so they're a very good school for personal trainers, and this is their recommendations for some good exercises for senior citizens. Okay, so resistance training, I talked about that already, but again, some more. It can really help arthritis, osteoporosis, heart disease, obesity, back pain, psychological as well, and sleep as well. Can help you sleep better. So back to Julia Hawkins. Okay, the lady you saw at the beginning who was racing and who won in her category there. I dug up around, tried to find online what she actually does and what her secrets are. She doesn't eat any red meat, she says. No fried food, lots of fruits and vegetables. Crab and popcorn are some of her favorite foods, and in of themselves, I think they're pretty healthy. No smoking and no drinking. So I think that's great. I think it kind of fits with what we were talking about for the most part. And yay to Julia. I'm very excited about that. One thing that we didn't talk about too much was water. Thirst cues can decline with age. Hydration is so important. It affects literally everything. So hydration is super important. A lot of times people can think they're hungry and they're actually thirsty. So those signals can get crossed also. It can help everything from cognition to joints, because the joints are made out of water too. Helps arthritis, helps the skin, helps digestion, helps the immune system. It basically helps everything. So how about that? We'll make it simple. Just helps everything. So make sure you get your water in. And again, to emphasize, thirst cues can decline with age. So you're going to have to really pay attention that you're getting enough hydration. Okay, so in conclusion, health is something that we all want and is achieved by paying attention to multiple components, things like just being mindful of yourself and the My Plate that I showed you, and working with not only a doctor for regular checkups, but a dietitian. There are nutritionists out there too. I'm always, encouraging registered dietitian nutritionists, but just really work with both of those, and they will help you. And if you don't care for your body, where are you going to live? That's one quote I love. Take care of your body, it will take you places. So in conclusion, one more here. Of all the self-fulfilling, this is my favorite actually, of all the self-fulfilling prophecies in our culture, the assumption that aging means decline and poor health is probably the deadliest. So thank you, Marilyn, for that quote. And I really agree with that. So I will be here for any questions that you may have, and I definitely can feel free to shoot those to me. I think we're going to have actually a segment right now. So I'll try to answer whatever I can. And if I cannot, I will get back with you with the best answer that I can, evidence-based as well. And this is my contact information. And thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate that. And and I'm here in Gig Harbor, and we still have some room for new clients, I believe. So I'll be glad to work with anyone who would like to work with me as well. I specialize in weight management and healthy weight management. I have to deal with a lot of fad diets out there, and helping my clients, they are usually very confused. So I help with that. Digestive health also. I mentioned lowering cholesterol earlier, and blood sugar. Those are a couple I've seen a lot improvement. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Cathy. That was fabulous.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you.
We did have a question earlier. Do you have any food recommendations or any recommendations to ease a cold?
You said to ease a cold?
Yes.
Oh, definitely. Yes. Okay, so to ease a cold, I would say that vitamin C, I've heard of people who never get sick because they always take their vitamin C. And I would agree with that. Vitamin C is very important because it helps the integrity. You hear it is good for your skin, right? Well, it's good for all membranes. So that includes everything, inside of you as well. So all membranes. And so vitamin C is really important. I would say that vitamin D is often very lacking, especially up here in the north. And so I hear a lot of people, they say they get outside, but they're getting outside the wrong time of the day. They're very likely just not getting enough vitamin D. It's a very major problem. So I would say definitely if you have any, it might not be convenient to go get tested right now when you're sick, but if you suspect that you might be low in vitamin D, it probably doesn't hurt to take some, again, always with these recommendations, go check with your doctor first, but like a number would be like 1 or 2,000 IUs a day of vitamin D at least. The upper limit is about 4,000. So they're saying that over 4,000 might be, you really need to watch out there about taking too much, especially continually that high of a dose. I would say zinc is another one that's really good for colds. And so zinc is a mineral that's very good for the immune system, reproductive health, mental health, but it's very good for the immune system, and it can be depleted by stress. So if you've noticed that you get sick a lot after you've had a stressful episode, it's likely because the zinc is depleted, and the zinc was helping your immune system, but now it's depleted because you were stressed. So that's one thing that can happen. And zinc is not super prevalent in the diet. It's like meat, but also beans, nuts, seeds, not in a whole lot of other things. So it can be tricky to get enough zinc. So that's why they say take this zinc supplement for a sign of a cold, because it has zinc in it and vitamin C. Another thing I would recommend is garlic. That's a really good one for that. I'll tell you, I could tell you from my own personal experience and from my family, every time we get a cold, I mean, before I became a dietitian, I didn't know all this stuff. And so colds would linger on for 2 or 3 weeks or more. Ever since we started taking garlic, vitamin D, vitamin C, and the zinc all together, colds are now like a 3 or 4 day thing. It's just common now. It might be a week at the most. And so when you take all those things together, it's just like, whoa, your body's like, yes, this is what we need. We're back on track. And so, and also to prevent the colds as well, all of these things can be useful. So the garlic, there's benefits raw and not raw, both of them, and in powdered supplement form. There's allicin and other components in garlic, but garlic have been found to be antiviral and antibacterial, anti-inflammatory. So you'll just feel better after garlic, and you can put it on so many things. Like, let's say you're a vegan, it could be garlic. It could be avocado toast. You just put some on it, or a potato salad, or it could be like, let's say you have a tuna salad sandwich, just throw it all over that. But raw garlic, if you can stomach it, if you're okay with that, if your spouse doesn't mind, that kind of thing. But it will really help. It'll make everything feel better because it's an anti-inflammatory. It has anti-inflammatory properties. So it's going to also just help your immune system as well. A lot of people swear by echinacea teas, and that's the thing you could do, or echinacea in general. See, what else? Am I missing anything? And so those are some I'd start out with for sure. And that should really, with all those things, if you're not sensitive or avoiding any of those items I just said, then those altogether would be quite powerful for a cold. Oh, hydration too. Lots of liquid. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much,
You're
Cathy.
welcome. Sure, of course.
Any more questions,
Any
folks?
other questions?
I'm going to check Facebook Live here to see if we have any.
I need my water, speaking of which.
Brad said hello.
Well, thank you, Brad. Thanks for tuning in.
Well, we appreciate each and every one of you for being here. There was one gal that said that she had to leave the meeting at around 6, but that she was going to watch on YouTube. So
good.
For those of you who are watching live with us, this will be viewable on our YouTube channel, and I put that in the comment section.
Yes.
Susan said that thanks for the information.
Oh, thank you, Susan. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Oh, and Trees said, is garlic powder as good as raw garlic? That's a good question.
It has some components of it. I can't tell you all the names right now, but the raw, there's a certain thing. Okay, you have to let it sit out for a few moments to get the full potent effect. But I have to say, The dry has some benefits, but the raw is better in my opinion, depending on what you're trying to do with it.
Oh
But
yeah,
for a
'cause
cold, I would say the raw. I would take over the powdered. It
yeah,
has less effect. The dry has less effect.
isn't that a component called Allison? I
Yes.
think yes. Very good.
Thank you.
Oh, what about steamed?
Steamed garlic?
Yeah, cooked, steamed. Yeah, cooked, roasted,
Yeah,
steamed.
I to tell you the truth, I'm not sure. I think the raw has the most. I think some nutrients get consolidated or more activated when they're cooked, and I can't recall right now with garlic. I know that from my own experience, it was just really more beneficial to have the raw when it comes to the coals and those kind of things. So I'd have to look more into that for you. They all have different benefits, though. It's better to have what you stated there than not. What application were you using? I'm curious. Like, what were you putting it in something else, like another dish?
With either other foods, steamed like vegetables or something.
Oh, you mean adding it to the other steamed vegetables?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, steaming it along with steaming vegetables. Put it all
Yeah,
together.
another thing, I wanted to add something about steaming. I know some people shudder about microwaves and things like that, microwave ovens, but one thing one can do is that kind of like when steaming vegetables, especially broccoli and similar vegetables, is just to literally just put it in the microwave without any water at all. And it steams really nicely without a lot of nutrient loss. Because in steaming or especially boiling, the nutrients get lost in the water. And
Well,
so, and the
I have a
nutrients are just a lot of times damaged. It's very fragile. It's already damaged with any kind of heating, period. But,
well, I have a steaming pot, a steaming pot
okay.
that you
And
put a little
so,
water at the bottom.
yeah, yeah. Does the water get colored with, like get greener or can you tell it's getting some of the juices from the vegetables into the water afterwards?
Sometimes maybe a little, but not much.
Okay, that's
Because it's
good.
not
And
long. It's
yeah,
not long enough to. It's not
yeah.
steaming long. It's
It's not very
short.
long, very short. Okay, the shorter the better. Yes, I would say so. So yeah, if you have a system that's working for you, that's really good. And for those of you who just really are time crunched, like I am, but just throwing it in the microwave with no water, like broccoli, has been my favorite way to cook it for quite a long time. Especially if you realize, oh my gosh, I forgot to add the sweet potato. What am I going to do? And then you could just literally cook cube sweet potato like with a couple of minutes, and then you can add it later instead of waiting for it to boil and take forever to cook that way. So it can be easy to add in different things in the last minute. And broccoli right now is my favorite. I've done eggplant, I've done broccoli. Let's see, what else have I done? Potato, like new potato, I can't. Cauliflower. There have been several that I've cooked in the microwave like that with no water at all. Just like that. Because there's water inside the vegetable already. So it's already cooking from the inside out.
That makes
You
sense.
just don't stand right next to the microwave while it's cooking if you're like a 20-year-old microwave and you're standing watching it through the window. That's not healthy either. There's some talk about the waves coming out and affecting us and all that. So I would just stand far away from it and go maybe to another room even. Just stand far away across the kitchen and let it cook. Of course, raw. I like to also have raw fruits and vegetables and focus on that too as often as possible. We do eat a lot of cooked, and I wrote a paper on that a while back, back in college, a long time ago, about how different nutrients are depleted by a lot of cooking that we do. So, are there any other questions?
Any more questions, folks? Perfect. Yes, and Laura said thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Laura.
Yay. Well, we're gonna say goodbye to our Facebook Live friends. Thank you so much
Okay,
for tuning in.